way, when you look at the Muslim community, and you know what percentage of Muslims vote liberal? Do you know what percentage
Probably
of Muslims
80%.
vote? 70+% vote liberal. But by the way, here's the data for you. Very interesting. This is something for you to be considering within Turning Point USA to think about. Check this out. Midterms. Do you know from 2018 midterms to 2022 midterms? Watch this. 2018 midterms to 2022 midterms, specifically Muslims.
Okay.
2018 midterms, only 17% voted Republican. Let me say it again. 2018 midterms, only 17% voted Republican. Do you know what it was in 2022? 28%.
Oh, wow.
Guys, that's 11% in 4 years. Here's what is happening.
That's profound.
That's profound. Here's what's happening. By the way, we'll send you that data. Here's what's happening, which is exciting. This is what I love that's happened that's exciting, which is kind of awkward. It's very awkward, very weird, but it's exciting. Okay. What would happen to liberals? You ready for this one? By the way, we know why Muslims don't vote conservative, because conservatives are pro-Israel. So that's kind of like something that stemmed with them. So they kind of like, but in every issue, abortion, Muslims have the lowest percentage of divorces, How they feel about abortion, how they feel about LGBTQ, all of that stuff. Muslims have a conservative belief. But Democrats have won over the Muslim vote as well as the black vote because of, certain positions, right? What if conservatives are able to win black liberals, and what if conservatives are able to win Muslims? And what if Muslims and Christians come together and say, look, let's set aside Prophet Muhammad and Jesus. We know what you believe in. We know what we believe in. But listen, when it comes onto these issues with family, let's unite. Do you know how scary it would be if a Republican strategist behind closed doors brought the 10 biggest influencers and said, we have to make a better argument to Muslims? Because Republicans have always been what? No, stiff arm to Muslims. No, stiff arm to Muslims. There's a lot of Muslims that are waiting to convert to Republican. Republicans are not doing a good job winning them over. The argument makes sense for Muslims to be Republican, but Republicans are doing a terrible job winning their vote. So all I'm saying to you is when we're talking about, this thing's going to get worse, I think you have to present your argument better to convert. And if we do, I think common sense is going to eventually prevail.
Yeah, and I'm obviously not a Muslim, but I will say this. I would much rather work with a Muslim parent association than an LGBTQ organization on the right. And the opposite is actually happening. People on the right are trying to go out of their way to go try to make peace with the gay mafia. And I think the opposite. It's like, well, no, go to people that actually share some of your values, theological differences aside. You saw in Dearborn, Michigan, the parents that were rising up against the grooming sexual perversion of children were Muslim families. And you see this with Latinos. You see this, again, with blacks and Muslims. So here's what you're getting at, Patrick, which is very deep, and I agree completely, which is that this woke virus, as we call it, right, these woke idea pathogens, they are only popular in white, upper middle class, college-educated coastal communities. And yet they are being almost colonistically imposed on the rest of the country. So Midwestern Christians don't want the woke thing. But what there is a thermonuclear political weapon that's about to be deployed where you can exploit how white liberal ideas are being forced to black youth, Hispanic youth, and Muslim youth. That has not been exploited. And we're seeing it in the polling. We're seeing it where the Yale, Harvard, white Upper East Side liberals in New York who all agree that the trans thing is the greatest thing ever. They all want this. But you know where it's unpopular? People that still have an attachment to the customs and the traditions of their home country that have not yet been infected by the Yale zeitgeist of the chemical castration of children.
By the way, guys, let me tell you, I'm telling you right now, this is going to sound weird. If Republicans win the Muslim vote and the black liberal vote, it's game over for a few decades. And it's not possible, it's not impossible to do so. The presentation has to be better by purely presenting logic. Go back to the Gallup data, and then I want to hear your thoughts. Go back on the Gallup data. Control F for me, because we didn't show it, so I want the audience to see exactly. Control F the word born. Okay, you found it. Is this it? Okay, is this? Yeah, that's right. So watch this. In your view of being gay or lesbian, something you're born with, or due to factors as upbringing and environment. Look at this. This is 2019 is as far as it goes. What does it say? Born with, 49%. Go all the way to the bottom. That says in 1977, 13%. Okay? How did this happen? This is the constant trying to baptize people to think this is normal, and they're able to go to the youngest generation. There's two data points with traditionalists. There's one that says 1.7% of them are gay. There's another one that says 0.8% of them are gay. If there's one thing we know about traditionalists, they could give a shit about our opinion. So they're not going to be like not coming out of closet because they're worried about what you and I think about it. They're going to do whatever the hell they want to do. And then with these two guys, two communities, imagine all of a sudden a liberal has to defend a Muslim with pure values.
No, but you see Ilhan Omar tap dance around this whenever she gets asked questions about this trans stuff, or Rashida Tlaib, who are the two most outspoken Muslim members of Congress. Interestingly enough, there was a Muslim attorney general candidate who lost by 240 votes in Arizona, my home state, Abe Hamadeh, who should have been attorney general. And there is a sizable Muslim population in Arizona, and he was really clear on all the major issues. And so just to kind of reemphasize the point here, here's understandably, and Pat, you'll have to meet kind of the right halfway, there's an understandable fear that American Muslims have animosity towards American Christians and vice versa, okay? There is some truth to that in the very radical Islamic circles, okay?
Sure.
However, we're talking about politics, which by definition is the sport of addition and multiplication, not division and subtraction. So if you want to multiply your ranks, you have a community of people that you don't agree with theologically, that are currently a devoted Democrat voting group. Wouldn't it make sense to then just focus on two issues that pro-life, trans, pro-life, trans, pro-life, trans? Muslims are 99% in agreement.
Why? So say, why is there that division between the two?
Some of it is a theological, and I share some of this, right, belief that radical Muslims want to bring Sharia to the United States.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I even believe that, wholeheartedly. That is something a lot of Christians do believe. Secondly, post 9/11, there was a fair amount of nonprofit chatter and a fair amount of activism that presented Islam with no nuance. No nuance in the sense of that all Muslims believe the same thing. And that's, I don't think, a fair representation, right? There's radical Muslims. There's people that take it, I have a very good friend, Zuhdi Jasser in Arizona, who is calling for a reformation, right? But here's the point, is that what I would challenge Republicans or conservatives with is like, okay, let's pretend you think that Muslims want an authoritarian regime. You're already living under one. You're living under a trans authoritarian regime. And here's a group of people that want to smash that regime. Wouldn't it be nice to build a coalition for once?
So let me tell you. So I'm about to get a little uncomfortable with the audience, and they may or may not like it, but that's my comfort zone, okay? So we're in the Bahamas last week. We're having dinner. We're laughing our asses off for about 3 hours. Guy sitting across from me is the same guy that I went to him to ask for the Quran that I gifted to Tate at the end. If you watch the interview with Tate at the end,
I didn't get that far.
Yeah, but if you just go to the last 2 minutes, that's all you need to do. I gave him a Quran. I gave him a Bible from 1870, and I gave him Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis.
My favorite book.
I'm like, listen, here's 3 books. One of them is an old Bible. One of them C.S. Lewis. Hopefully you read C.S. Lewis. Do your thing.
He loved them, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, if you see it, the guy doesn't get emotional. You could tell he got emotional when this gift was given to him. And obviously we have. I love the fact that Tucker did the interview with him, and he went to Romania. And whether we were the guinea pigs to realize that you can make it back to America to Tucker, it is all good. We're glad we did that. But this is not the one. Don't worry about it, Rob. It's fine. It's a newer one. That's the older one. But here's what happened there. When we talked to this guy, Haas, stud, love him,
amazing.
Love his wife, Naveen, good people. So he starts talking about Muslims, America, Israel, Republican, Christians. And this guy is a hardcore conservative.
Yeah.
Maybe more a hardcore conservative than a Muslim. And that's saying something, because he is a Muslim and a proud one. And he's the kind that converts. He's not a kind that just talks about it. So he's the kind that converts, and he converts Christians. And I think the number was shown on how many Americans have converted to Muslim. The number's like 20,000 Christians, of which 75% are women that have. 25% are men, okay? And a lot of them are blacks, by the way, that are converting.
And that's been the case since the 60s.
That's been the case since the 60s. Shoaib, Ali,
we
Tyson, all this.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
But here's where it went. I said, and he said, well, the challenge is that Muslims, they're being identified stereotypes with, being terrorists and violent. Okay, no problem. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, are all stereotypes correct or incorrect? Are they partially correct? He says, well, Pat. I said, let me just kind of give you some stuff here. So you ready? He says, yes. I said, Armenian. I said, I'm Armenian. I'm half Armenian, half Assyrian. I said, do you realize AIG flew out to my house to drop my contract because I was Armenian, because the guy talked to my wife and said, Armenians are known for insurance fraud. And we're worried that, Patrick, the same thing's going to happen.
It's unbelievable.
The same guy that came with a lawyer to terminate me, 7 years later at his retirement on a yacht, he had 5 speakers to speak in front of his entire friends and family. The last one that spoke was his best friend. The second to the last one was me.
Wow.
That spoke at. We are great friends today, mutual respect, like you would have been. I love this guy. I can say that, right? I said, okay, what are Asians known for? And we're in the room. We're just asking everybody because there's a Filipino. Driving. Okay, Jews. Okay, stereotype. You really want to say this? Cheap money. Okay, hey, blacks. Black on black crime. Fatherless homes. Okay. We kept going. Everything. Indians, 7-Eleven, gas stations. Literally everybody. And it was all nationalities, so it was comfortable to say it because you're making fun of yourself. You're being self-deprecating. I said, when's the last time you heard about a black terrorist? He says, what do you mean? I said, have you ever heard about the stereotype, a black terrorist?
No.
He's like, no. I said, why is there, Middle East Muslim terrorists? Why is that connotation there? So, well, it's because there's so much anger of what the West has done to this, to this. Okay, you go look at the top 10 countries in the world for the last 50 years. This data's out there. If you look at the top 10 countries in the world who has the most, terrorist attacks, violent attacks against each other, 8 out of 10 is Muslim.
Of course.
So now they're going to sit there and say, see, I knew you were against this. No problem. Hear me out. Now let's flip it on them. You ready for the other side? That Muslims going to like this part? I was born in Iran. 10 years I lived in Iran. You know what the West did to Middle Eastern countries before the Ottoman Empire fell in 1916, 1917, 1918, when the Ottoman Empire fell, and all of these countries were part of theirs, and then all of a sudden, hey, we're going to regulate these guys, Palestine and this, and we're going to, France and Britain, they're going to have these countries that are going to, regulate. Hey, Iran, you guys don't know how to manage oil. We'll take care of your oil. Look, these people are dumb. Let's just take care of their money, their oil, right?
The British oil company.
Yeah, so guess what? These guys are saying, no. Listen, stop trying to take our money. You keep ruining our country by creating so many proxy wars and havoc. Muslims have a good point there. And then there's a statistic that came out showing the angriest people in the world. Do you know the angriest people in the world? You can pull up the statistic, Rob, while we're talking. Do you know the angriest people in the world? 8 out of 10 are Muslim countries.
Yeah.
Why, though? Because you're raised. I'm in Iran. Trust me, my friends and family, if you come to one of our parties, we look like we're angry half the time. We're just having a conversation.
For no reason.
But I'll say 10 more seconds and I'll give it over to you. And I want to hear your thoughts on this. The point I'm trying to make, right there, look at this. Angriest countries, and go to the top so people can see world's angriest countries.
I think there's a simple explanation for that.
By the way, if you look at this one, the third one makes a lot of sense.
Armenia.
The third one makes a lot of sense. Armenians, Azerbaijan, Turkey, the whole, look who's above Armenia, by the way. Who's angry at who? Armenia, Turkey. But this is the point I'm making to you. I think if the way it's presented in the following way. Listen, Muslims, Islam. Listen, man, stop acting like you guys are saints and innocent and your history is beautiful and perfect. Relax, bro. You got some dirt in your history. Fair. But no, you're right. Christians, West, relax. Hey, we got 800 military bases in the world. We're in everyone's freaking business. Of course you're going to piss people off. You want to know about everyone's business, everyone's divorce? Leave my marriage alone. Of course you're going to create enemies. Okay. Now we have a mutual understanding and agreement. What do we agree on? Family values and principles. Why don't we unite here and all the other stuff? Guess what, Muslims? Do you know in every region in the world what religion has the most babies per women?
Probably Islam.
In every region in the world, except for one, South and Central America, every other region, number one is Muslims. Guess what, Christians? You ain't having enough babies. That's your problem. Go compete. Have more babies. These guys are doing 2.9, 4.9. You're doing 1.9, 2.1. Of course you're going to get your ass handed to you. Stop being so upset and go in the bedroom and make some damn babies. You ain't making enough of them. These are logical conversations where you can't be like, well, I don't want to compete against Muslims. No, they're kicking your ass. This is a real conversation on what are you doing about it. So again, that's my point on what I think we can do to kind of get the two to see a little bit more on what we're seeing and then what weaknesses some Christians have on this as well. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't want to go too deep theologically. I think there's a super simple reason why most Muslim countries have difficult, or why they're so angry, is because they don't embrace a simple market principle of charging interest. Is that if you do not have interest, you cannot freely lend out money. Now, there's some workarounds around that, but you're going to remain permanently poor if you do not have a banking system that allows for entrepreneurial activity. I would imagine that all of us have taken out loans before.
Usury is what you're referring to, right?
It's in this...
Which was used to be outlawed in the Christian community.
Yes.
How Jews made all the money.
Yes, and Jews find a workaround in the book of Exodus. It explicitly actually prohibits it, but the rabbis found a workaround because they realized that flourishing and prosperity actually comes with the ability to charge interest, right? I'm very pro-interest because then you're allowed to bet on entrepreneurs and bet on people to buy homes. So I think that's part of it, but not the whole story. I don't know how deep you want to get into this theologically, Patrick. There are some fundamental differences between worldview of Muslims and Christians that I think need to be ironed out, but I will get back to, I'm not that interested in that conversation. I'm just not. What I'm more interested in is understanding that right now we are not living in a secular America. We're living in a place where the God of America has replaced it with trans zealotry, worship of the self, widespread narcissism, and kind of a globalist ideal.
Yeah.
And so the question is, how do you then defeat that thing? And sometimes you have to make a prudent step that you might not be thrilled with to partner with a group of people that you do not see eye to eye on, theologically or otherwise, to build a coalition to win. Whether it be in World War II or other times, we as the United States have been willing to sometimes build coalitions with governments, people. And so, again, if a Muslim imam was here, we'd have a lot of disagreements, right? 4 major differences between Islam and Christianity off the top of my head. I believe in the inerrancy of the Bible. They believe in the Quran. They believe in the Prophet Muhammad. One of the reasons they tend to be a violent people, too, is because their prophet was a very violent person. Christ was not, right? Not to mention the Trinity. They believe in Allah. There's a lot of differences, right? However, the things we can agree on in American public policy is this. It's as simple as this. Let's just start here. It is impossible to be a devout Muslim and vote Democrat. It's impossible. How you as a Muslim could then say you believe in what the Quran teaches and what Allah commands of you, right? And also say it's okay to teach this grooming perversion. Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib are sitting on some very, very fragile footing right there. And they're able to capture those Democrat votes over fear-mongering of deportation or immigration or whatever their thing is. That's one element of it. More importantly, though, the most socially conservative people in America are Muslims, and I agree with you, Pat. It's potentially could be some political upside for Republicans, but it's not going to be easy. What you just summarized, both sides giving a little bit. I know the conservative base well. There is a lot of skepticism towards.
It makes no sense.
I'm not saying it makes rational. I'm telling you the truth of what the base is saying when it comes to Islam.
Let me push the base back. And push back with me as well, because I'm trying to reason here, because slowly to me on the Republican Party, I'm like, these guys are only wanting to talk to people that agree with them. And it's like, listen, stop being such a pansy and start kind of like figuring out other people and how we can create areas that we can reach. I mean, let me make my point, and then you can say. Yeah. So, for example, for me here, all right, so what's more important to you, being right theologically, or you having the other side gaining the freedom to teach your kids about trans and all this other stuff? What's more important to me? We can have a conversation for debate, and it's purely theological. Totally fine. We can have that debate, and Christians are going to say, well, you know what? Yeah, I agree with this guy. Oh, no, I agree with that guy. Muslims are going to say, you have no clue what you're talking about. Fine. There's a time and place for that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about an area where the opposing party is doing evil things, and it's making evil behavior seem normal. And I'm not for it. And if I can, in a way, if gangs used to do this in L.A., and you have, TVR or MS-13 Mara Salvatrucha, or you have Blood, Crip, you have Tuner, you have Black Diamonds, all these things that you can go with different gangs that they had in LA. Okay, even Armenian power. Like, listen, bro, we're Armenian. Filipinos had a strong gang. All these guys. But when it comes onto this area, we have to protect this. I'm doing an event in Glendale. Yeah. No hotel wants to give us their location. Alex Theater, who's owned by the city, has 1,700 people. I went to Glendale High School. They said, we know PPD. We follow his content. The city is not allowing Patrick to do his event for parents at Alex Theater. I can't do an event at Alex Theater. Now we're talking a couple different hotels. Every Armenian hall in Glendale and surrounding areas has said, you have our place for free. Come and do your event there for parents. Every one of them. We just had a Zoom. Okay, we're trying to find a location here. But for me, to sit there and say, yeah, and by the way, while I'm saying this to you, you know who's the first person that reached out? Lexit. You know who reached out? Former gangsters from MS-13 that are not Christians, devout, saying, hey, we'll come and protect, making sure Antifa's not going to do anything. No one's going to mess with us. Trust me, we're going to show up. Fine. I think we have to kind of figure out a way to look at, again, we haven't seen in a long time, Charlie, for a society like ours. It starts off with the founder. Who are the founders? Benjamin Rush, Washington, all these guys who, they really did the hard job. We're doing the easy job. We ain't doing shit. They had it hard, right? These 56 guys. And then the founders, after those guys, shows up barbarians. I'm going to go build a railroad. What are you going to do? Dude, what are you talking about? Let me do it. I'm going to do it. Carnegie, Chase, boom. Damn, these guys actually pulled it off. Yes, Flagler. That's some crazy shit. Industrial. Okay, so those are the barbarians, and they're willing to fight the fight. And then you got, the builders and the explorer. What if we can do this? And let's go explore this, and let's go explore that. And then comes the administrator. Well, we need some laws, and we need to create some rules and regulations. Fine, we need law and order. Then shows up the bureaucrats and the aristocrats, which is the shit we're in right now. You know who's the guy that can save that society and the civilization? The synergist. Who's a synergist today in America? I actually want to know, who is a synergist? Everybody is in their own safe tribe, sitting around talking to people that agree with them. Who is saying, guys, can we do this? You got some shit. I got some shit. You got some shit. Let's just freaking talk. Because we keep acting like everybody's perfect. We can't unify the group. What if we pulled that off? So I think if we were to behind closed doors, I totally understand what you're saying, because I think your following is more Christian, devout, yes. Jesus, God-loving, all of that stuff. And maybe it's a tough message for you to give. Maybe it's a message that a person that's like an RFK type of a Muslim that can give at a Turning Point USA next year or the following year to kind of give. Maybe it doesn't come from you. And let the audience say, you have no clue what you're talking about.
Two things. I think that there needs to be a reformation in Islam. I will stand by that. But my politics right now are about, people say, Charlie, what motivates you? I want to win. I want to win. I want to defeat this woke, authoritarian machine that is taking over everything. Everything. You do that by addition. And so if there is a group of people that are growing, having lots of kids, and they're being affected by it, then yes. But I mean, Patrick, you know this. In Christianity, there's a belief that is not going to go away, that, the people of Ishmael, right, in Genesis 16, I believe, it's predicted to be that of toil and disagreement and division, and some people have even stronger views on Islam than on that. That is an important theological discussion. Happy to have that with other people. But we're talking about politics. And you can't ever do that if you're not in power. And you're going to remain in the minority if you do not capitalize. So I'm in full harmony with you, Patrick. So both can be simultaneously true.
Can I make one?
I wouldn't demand a Muslim to adopt every one of my views. If they
don't have to.
That's not the point, right?
But you don't have to, and they don't have to. Neither one of us have to.
No, but I just also want to be
to win.
I hope I'm introducing just a little bit of difficulty of this is going to be challenging.
Oh, brother, I don't specialize in the easy. I specialize in the difficulty.
I know that.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.